So today's threat landscape. Well, as you probably can imagine, the COVID-19 and coronavirus pandemic has really had a visceral effect on cybersecurity, amongst other things. A lot of it's coming from the same type of cyber criminal attack pieces that we commonly see, those being phishing, business email compromises, ransomware attacks, and other forms of social engineering. What's been interesting here is that they've been focusing around institutions that are in the healthcare or public sector that they recognize are probably going to have a tougher time having any kind of outage because of a ransomware attack or because of a data breach. So they're leveraging that as kind of a vehicle to try to make sure they're going after people that they think are going to either pay or will in some other way provide a financial compensation to them. So we have many of the same common players that we usually see, right? Organized crime elements, nation state actors, but also we're seeing some other kind of interesting ones like political activists. What are the targets? Well, of course, on the political side, they're looking to try to push your opinion because of the presidential updates, or just to try to smear, if you will, one individual or a particular political party in some way, shape, or form. Whereas the organized crime elements, of course, they're after the dollar, right? What can they do to implement against your environment to try to get that payout? And they're the ones really focusing around the ransomware stuff. The last ones are strategic, and we typically see this on the nation state actors. Again, going back to taking advantage of the fact that many users are accessing systems from remote locations. They're using systems in some cases that may not be a business asset that is as well locked down or is in compliance with security controls. So taking advantage of those temporary weaknesses to try to get a foothold. So what do we do about these? Well, we know security professionals are kept up late at night worrying about these issues. We know that a high percentage of attacks are successful, but yet they remain undetected for a long period of time. What can we do? What can the security teams do to try to get themselves in a better state? Well, in comes the MITRE ATT&CK framework, right? Another solution that can help us be a little more effective at understanding what attackers are doing, the tactics that they're leveraging, and just making a better security for our environment. So what is it? Well, the ATT&CK framework, as it's known, stands for Adversary Tactics, Techniques, and Common Knowledge. And it really stemmed out of a skunkworks project that MITRE had done for the NSA called the Fort Meade experiment. But what MITRE found was that this was a really good framework that not only helped in certain businesses, but they said this would help everybody. So they opened it up, made it open source. Everybody's allowed to use it, and it's a fantastic resource. What is it made out of? Well, unlike many other models that are out there, and even some other framework pieces for adversarial events, the MITRE is built on real-world attacks, meaning that they're aggregating from millions of companies all over the world, millions of different types of attacks, leveraging them together, distilling them, analyzing them, and then putting it into their framework. This makes it very, very effective as a tool to help us understand what's going on in the wild and how our defenses stack up. How do we use this? Well, obviously, it's fantastic threat intelligence information, right? We can learn to what is out there, what adversaries are doing, and more importantly, does it impact us? Are they focusing against our type of industry? Detection and analytics, of course, helps us understand. We can leverage it and say, do our implemented solutions detect when this type of attack is going on? Do we alert it in an appropriate way? Of course, adversary emulation and red teaming, within SHI, we do a lot of pen testing exercises for customers. And this is one we get brought into a lot, helping emulate various attack frameworks or platforms to try them against so an organization can learn what works, how it generates alert data, and how they can respond to it. And the last one being assessment engineering. I really consider this more of the hygiene piece, identifying what works well. Keep in mind, we're not only talking about technology, we're talking about the process and workflow. Are they working correctly? Data collection is absolutely critical, right? And this is the common one that we get a lot of questions on as far as how to really set all this up. Well, obviously, we want to be pulling from our perimeter all the way down the stack to endpoints in our business applications. So perimeter defenses, our firewalls, our edge equipment, anything that we may have for content filtering or ransomware, those email filtering solution pieces, and of course, servers and endpoints. We need that data coming in. Our next key component here, of course, is testing the scenarios, analyzing the attacks and trends. Are they focusing against your industry? And if they are, what are the tactics that they're commonly using? Adversarial emulation, absolutely critical. Taking the chance to use the framework and the evidence and devices inside it to fit into your environment, to act as that bad actor and test different controls and attacks against your environment in a safe way, of course, and we'll talk about that. But test them and make sure that you're able to detect them, prevent them, and more importantly, respond to them appropriately. Recognize all of this is a continuous improvement. It does take time. It's not only as a maturity piece of using the platform, but really just refining our defenses, getting our people more trained and more apt to understand what events are normal and what events look like it's a focused type of attack. Of course, adapting that into our processes and detection capabilities, and also note that it can give us some really good fodder for our strategic kind of roadmap looking forward. If we keep seeing that we have to manually do something to mitigate a problem or to prevent it, maybe it's time to look at a technology that'll help us do that in an automated fashion. Or maybe it's a configuration change that can be implemented just to enrich the tools that we have.